Hi there, this is Penny Manus Diefendorf with your Daily Grain.
In this week's worth of Daily Grains, I want to talk about the engines that drive us. So our motivations or our fears, the things that are underneath. And this is critical to know because if you go forward with a genuine motivation, something that you acknowledge and that you use to drive yourself forward, it's like the difference between coffee and a good night's sleep. So coffee is the artificial stimulant, right? And it can never replace the efficiency of having had a good night's sleep, of having your brain absolutely clear, of having your energy coming from a genuine source, i.e., your own physical well-being. So when we use motivations just as a stimulus that are not really true for us, we have just learned from somewhere that if we aim for this, or if we have such and such goal, or if we make things like vision boards, etc., they will move us forward. But like I said, it is the artificial versus the genuine. And the genuine will always take you exactly where you want to go. It will take you with less effort on your part and definitely less of an impact on your health. And when I say health, I mean health at all the levels of your consciousness. So from the physical to the spiritual. So let's take a look through the next few days of what motivations you actually do have at each of these levels and how that can affect your life for better or for worse. So let's start with your physical and material motivations. As an example, if you want to lose weight, but your motivation is just that, to lose weight, to fit into clothes, to fit into some perception of what is acceptable to society, whatever that may be as you view it, then you will find that when things aren't moving as quickly, or if your targets aren't met, it generates a lot of frustration, depression, and ultimately surrender. You will just give it up. However, if your motivation was to make your body the most efficient, the most conditioned, the best it could possibly be in terms of shape and in terms of health, then what a difference. Because you will choose perhaps different things. You may not diet and make yourself ill, for example. You will choose health, which is always a brilliant motivation when it comes to your physical well-being. And likewise with your material well-being. If you are aiming just for money, your choices will drive you in that direction regardless of what you wish for at all the other levels of your consciousness. And that is an interesting point, which is why I'm doing this series of Daily Grains this week, level by level. Because what you want at one level, if it is in conflict with what you need at another level, you're going to have problems. And this is one of the reasons we have conflict within ourselves and we find it difficult to go forward with life. So those are the kinds of motivations to look at today for yourself in your physical reality. And by physical, I mean your health and well-being, and also your material existence, your finances, your home, your clothes, and all the rest of that stuff. So have a think about that today. So let's look at what happens in the mental realm. In fact, this is something that is triggered every minute of the day, because the mental realm holds all the information that we choose to receive. So what are your motivations for your information, for your knowledge set, for your skill set? Why do you search for the information you search for? Very often these days, the motivation on clicking on information or trying to develop your knowledge set is actually escapism. So have a think about that. It's that bright, shiny object syndrome that everyone succumbs to at some point or the other, including myself, I shall say. But it is very important to know that you're succumbing to it and why. I put it to you that a good motivation in the mental realm is to really develop your mental faculties, and more than that, to focus them. Focus them on what really helps you. Focus them on what actually will contribute to the other levels of yourself. So if you are continually imbibing information that either depresses you or angers you and then depletes your reserves for other things in your life, really question your motivations in this ring of consciousness. So that's a task you can usefully do today. So let's look at emotional motivations. And this is something that is not restricted to relationships. Obviously, that's the obvious one. What motivates you to find and get into relationships? Is it need? Is it something that you feel you lack in yourself, where you need someone to complete you? So that's an obvious one, and really must be examined for each relationship you undertake, business, personal, familial, etc. But the other level of emotional motivation that you may not understand is emotional is actually related to your money, to your material stuff and your physical stuff. Are you motivated to eat, for example, if you're feeling depressed? It's an emotional motivation towards comfort. So this also comes under what drives you emotionally, and what does it drive you to, and why. So if you look for comfort outside of yourself, in food or in relationships or in retail therapy, that is something really worth examining, because ultimately these are just quick fixes or whitewashing or plaster over the cracks. What is driving that? What is underneath that? And can you consolidate your emotional motivations to healthy ones, to ones that look within yourself first and then outside? So for all the things that you do that bring you comfort and that bring you a sense of completion, look at what the motivations are behind that. When it comes to psychological motivation, it's our Subconscious, the thing that I recommend you really get rid of. We need everything at the conscious level. So these are the fears, the biases, the prejudices that really have no place in civilized society, let alone your life. Because things that motivate you unconsciously or subconsciously might be leading you down the garden path unnecessarily. So think about your own reactions when you meet people or when you do something. Is it on the person or the something's own merit, or do you choose that because of some preconceived notion? Right? So this is what prejudice does. It drives us to select something because of something we have been taught or something we have been inculcated to believe in or indoctrinated to believe in. And it may not be true. So at the psychological level, if you don't understand your own motivations and they are false, well, that is the reason this world is in the state it is in. Because there are triggers and there are drivers that have been embedded in you from birth that you need to know about. Most critically at this level, you need to know about it, because if you don't, other people or circumstances will manipulate you, is the word, according to their will. So take several moments to think whenever you do something that you think to yourself, what? Why did I do that? For good or ill? Really think why you did it and come to a finite conclusion, because that will be your psychological motivation. So at the spiritual level, we are driven by the macro things we believe. Do we believe in life after death? Do we believe in heaven and hell? Do we believe we have a soul? Are we atheists? Do we think we just end when this physical shell dies? What you do in life actually is predicated on these premises, I should say, that you hold at the psychological level. And it's very deep and it's very all-pervasive, because this is you, right? This is your essence. And when you are conscious, actually your motivations at the psychological level become pure. It cannot be otherwise, right? Because at this level, you have refined and transcended all the other levels. And so now you go forward. You could say you go forward with no motivations at all. You are just driven by your entirety. So you conceive something and you just do it. It's a brilliant way to live, this non-motivated motivation. But before you come to full consciousness, you will do well to think about things like this. Really, what do you believe about life and death? It really dictates to a large extent how you live your life. Whether your own life is precious to you because you feel it has a bigger purpose, or whether it's precious to you because you don't feel it has a bigger purpose. You just live every day and every moment because that's it. Either way, it's good to consolidate that for yourself and then go forward with it consciously. So the reason I went into all this at great length is because when you really understand your drivers, you attain a depth of conviction. And when you live life with that kind of conviction, that kind of depth, where you understand where you are coming from, which is much more important than understanding where anyone else is coming from, then you are living your life as, like I said, one cohesive entity. You're living your life as is. So there's no failure, there's no triumph. Your motivations are not driven from any external forces or what happens with your relationships. That engine that drives you is entirely within you. And so your actions are not forced, they're not contrived, they simply flow because you are directing them, you are conceiving them, and then you're executing them. And there's no risk or reward or deprivation required because you are self-motivated in every sense of the word, through every level of your being. And then perforce, every decision you make, every action you take is congruent because your motivations at the different levels are not in conflict, I would say. They could be complementary, they could be paradoxical, but you have resolved them, which is the important part. And then life goes on with purpose. You don't shoot yourself in the foot. You don't sit and wonder, why on earth did I do such and such? Because you know. You know before you do it what is driving that thing. And that's a very, very comfortable place and manner in which to live life.